Welcome to a Management Plus webinar. My name is Kevin Sloan. I'm a certified electronic health record specialist and certified ophthalmic technician. Management Plus is an industry leader in EHR, and we want to provide you with the documentation tools and the skills to use these tools proficiently. Today's webinar is titled The Blue Banner. Let's get started. As you can see, my favorite test patient, George Patton, is on the screen. I have created a new record for George today, and the focus of our discussion on this webinar is the blue banner. That is the blue section at the very top part of your health record. So we label that in a simplistic form. It's blue, it looks like a banner, so we call it the blue banner. There's a lot of functionality within this section of Management Plus, and I want to go over most of this. There's a few things on here I will not cover that is more than likely considered very advanced. I'll be more than happy to cover this with you, and you'll see when I skip over those parts, but the vast majority of everything that you need to know about this blue banner we are going to cover. So let's start in the upper left section. We have menus at the top. Menu options, file edit window, visit, narratives, macro, Medline Plus, PDR, and help. Clicking the file menu, you will see many different options over here. The top one is save. So if you ever need to save your record, you can click save and it will save it. Okay, the record will remain open. Most of the time, when you want to save it is when you're going to exit. So that is down here at the bottom. That's save and exit. You can access this via a keyboard command of Control Q. So there's about 6 or 7 different ways to get out of a health record. The most efficient and most reliable method is the Control Q, because it is the only one that will not ask you if you want to save the data. If you click save here, it will ask you if you want to save it, and you have to click yes or no or cancel. This will not. When you do Control Q, it just saves and exits, and that's it. But I do want to tell you about this. There are a few occasions where you may want to stay in the record after you've saved it. Save macro. I'll not cover that. That's a very advanced feature that it's rarely used. Occasionally there's a scenario where this can be helpful, but in most cases it is not, so I will not cover that. Okay. Save narrative. So if you want a PDF of your narrative saved to the attachments, you'll just click that and it will save it right to the attachment as a PDF. Delete visit. If you had ever accidentally created a record on a patient and found out that, oh gee, I don't want to save this record, or it's the wrong patient, or for some reason you just absolutely feel like you need to delete it. Naturally, if you had not saved it yet, you would just back out of the record and not save it, and you wouldn't have it. But if for some reason you had saved it once and then decided you did not want that, you could click delete visit and it would delete this visit. Bear in mind that if you enter data on a static form, the very next record that's created for this patient, all of that static data will still come forward. So be aware of that. Add and delete security items. Those are some very advanced features. Most of the time it ends up getting you in trouble, because if you ever add a security item, you have to have the permission to remove it. Otherwise, no one else can look at that particular form. So I have had somebody do this kind of, I suppose you could call it accidentally, and then no one else could enter data onto that. And then they didn't have any security permissions to delete it, so it caused a bit of a problem. But you can do that in some certain scenarios. I have not yet found a scenario where you would need to. Okay, direct send CCD. Export CCD, import CCD, and incorporate CCD. I'm going to save those for another webinar where we talk exactly about those. But a CCD is a continuing care document. We'll go into that in detail in another webinar. The interface, we will skip that since that is really just for our certification. Print full narrative, that allows you to print the whole narrative from an open record. In other webinars, I showed you how to print the narrative or the full narrative from demographics. Here you can do it from the open record if you need to. Print selective narrative, I'm not really going to talk about that too much since there really technically is not a select narrative any longer. A lot of the HTML code for one form lives on a different one. It would probably cause some confusion if you try to do a select narrative, such as the physician desktop form or some of the others, where all of the code for that form does not reside on that form. So if you did a select narrative, you would get absolutely nothing. So usually the print full narrative is the way you want to go. If you ever did want to have all of the HTML code on every individual form, just talk to me or your EHR specialist, and you can discuss some of the pros and cons and make that happen. Print attachments, that just allows you to print all of your attachments that are attached to this record. Print this page allows you to print the page just as it is. It's kind of a great training tool, so if you wanted to write some notes on a piece of paper about some controls or what they do, print this page is the option for you. Print all pages will allow you to print all the pages on this template arrangement. Print setup is just for your printer setup. Save and log off, that's a nice option for whenever you want to go to lunch or go home for the day and you're the last person on this workstation. It will save the record and totally shut down Management Plus. So that's only done in those scenarios. Generally, if you have somebody logged in to Management Plus, you'll want to continue to use them and just use the quick change icon, which I'll show you about in a little bit. But it is a nice feature. Save and exit, we talked about that, and exit. That will just allow you to get out, and again, it will ask you if you want to save it. The edit menu option has standard Windows keyboard commands. It's cut, copy, and paste. I would recommend that you do learn these and become proficient in those. Clear allows you to just clear that control. Find is a search feature. Import visit values. That's kind of another way to import the visit values for a specific form. I'm going to show you how that's done actually when we start talking about the form tree. And then of course the spell check. It's a nice feature that you can load on other dictionaries. The window menu option allows you to turn the narrative on and off. Right now I can tell that the runtime narrative is off. There is not a check mark on this. If I click this, it's going to turn the runtime narrative on. And if I go back to window, you can see that there's a check mark there. By default, Management Plus has the narrative turned off. I would highly recommend that you turn it on and then leave it on forever and never turn it off. Okay, so you can, if you did accidentally turn it off like that, you can always just click and turn it back on again. This runtime narrative, again, it's got today's date on here. If I had a visit description, it would show that right there. You don't ever want to click the red X on this because that would turn it off permanently. The best thing you can do is just click back on the form or do Alt-Tab on your keyboard. Health maintenance alerts allows you to access those. That's kind of an advanced feature, which we can talk about in detail in another webinar. And the other menu options on this, you could actually access all of these right here. Generally, it's done through other methods. They're really here just so that we can write code to fire these specific items via a script. But you could actually access all of those from here if you needed to. The only one in here that you might need to get to via this is the video for patient education. Everything else is available elsewhere and probably accessed easier in another method. The visit menu icon or the visit menu allows you to do the visit comparison. So this is a great tool. Since there are several different techniques available to review data on a health record. This is just one of those. So whenever you're reviewing past data, you'll want to consider all of the available options and then choose the tool that serves you best. Let's just show you what this does. When you choose Visit Comparison, it puts the form in read-only mode, and usually it'll end up here, but I always kind of bring it up there so it doesn't cover things. And then whatever was documented on previous records, it just displays in those controls. So let's click on this one. So we don't have anything in here, and we're just going to use this template arrangement. So we've got that one there. Let's see if anything is. Sure enough, this record on 12.2 has some data in this. You can switch to different forms and stay with this selected, and it will allow you to see all those values within the controls themselves. Let's take a look at that one. So you can see on this one, it changed. So it's like turning the pages of time. If you go and click close, it goes back to today's values. And so you can see I have not entered anything today, so it's blank. But it's a great tool for reviewing past data. Okay. Health maintenance rules, that is a very advanced feature which will be covered in another webinar. The individual sign-off, I'm going to skip over that. This is very rarely used. It allows you to sign off on the record. I've not seen a case where an individual would need to sign off on a record. In fact, it almost gives you a false impression as to who finalized it, because it will put the signature of whoever's logged in under the section of the narrative that says electronic signature. It gives you the impression it's finalized where it may not be. So I don't recommend people using this. You want only the physician's signature at the bottom of that. So we're going to skip over that. And again, I don't recommend people doing an individual sign-off. Finalize record. There are other methods, or actually one other method, to finalize a record, which is much better than this. This actually takes the longest period of time. On a rare occasion, you might want to do this. And again, only the physician is the one that is responsible for finalizing a record. So if the physician was in the sign-off work list and accessed the record from there, made some changes, and decided they just wanted to finalize it while the record was open, this would be how you would do it. Otherwise, the sign-off work list, you can do multiple records in a batch, and it's actually much faster. Allow editing. If your record is finalized and you want to edit that, this essentially unfinalizes the record. So allow editing allows you to unfinalize it. If you click this and it's not finalized, you'll get an information message that says you may not allow editing on a record that already allows editing. So it's kind of a nice way of saying, you know, you didn't need to click that, since you can edit that. If it was finalized, another information window would show up with an option there for you to key in your reason why you want to unfinalize it, since everything is tracked. So a little window would appear and you can key in your reason why, and then another information message would appear saying this record can now be edited. And it goes back to the unfinalized status, shows up on the sign-off work list again once saved. So it allows you to do this. And naturally, everything here is security controlled, so if you do not have the permissions, these might be grayed out. You'll see them, but they'll be gray. Add addendum. This option here is if the record is finalized and you do want to add an addendum that's not in a specific discrete control, you just want to put a brief note on the end of it. It will show up in the narrative as well. But you don't have to save and exit since the record is still finalized. You can just click the red X. It will save your values, and you don't have to worry about it going back on the sign-off work list since it's still finalized. You're not going to be unfinalizing it when you choose the Add Addendum option. The modified by log. This will allow you to see the names of all of the users that have ever accessed this record and done data entry. So if Sally was in this record and did some data entry, and then Joe was on here, and then the physician, you would see all of those names when you choose the modified by log. It takes a little bit of time for that to generate, so I'll not do that right now, but it's a nice way to see all of the individuals that actually access this record. And then the sign-off audit, if for some reason you were doing this individual sign-off, which again I don't recommend, you would just see all of the names of those that are signed off on there. Naturally, if the physician finalized it, you'll just see the physician's name on there. The narratives menu option allows you to access all of the past narratives one at a time. So you can see Mr. George Patton has had a lot of test records. And you can see if I come down to the bottom, there's an arrow that goes down, and up here goes up since I'm on a laptop with a small screen. And you can access all of that. So if I wanted to see this January 7th of 2015 routine glaucoma exam narrative, I could bring that up and scroll down through that and see all of the medical data. So this is not the runtime narrative, since we're not running this record from 1/7/15. This is just the narrative. Okay, so you can access as many of those as you need. I want to bring up this one here. You can see all of the data that was documented on that. And these are just, again, one at a time. Okay, the macro, this is kind of connected to this save macro element. This allows you to fire those. Again, another advanced feature which is rarely used, oftentimes gets you in more trouble than what it does good. So we're not going to show you that. Medline Plus. So here's some tools available for you that will allow you to find information. Let's choose in free text, and let's choose a cataract, and when I press enter, this will launch a window, and we'll go to Medline Plus. Looks like they've got an error on their web page, and allows you to see this information. You can print this information out, give it to patients and so forth. It's great. It really is a nice tool. So if there's a problem, it doesn't have to be an ocular problem, it can be anything if you want to find information about that. The next one is ICD code, SNOMED code, RX norm, and Low-Ink code. These access the different code tables if you wanted to access those. Again, you'll probably not be accessing them via this tool here. This really does allow us to just write some scripts so that we can fire these up from inside the system via some code. So let's skip to PDR. PDR brief. So if you wanted to search for Lumigan, it brings up information about Lumigan, and you can click the links to access additional information. The second one is PDR reference. Let's do this again for Lumigan. Okay, it brings up some options here. Double click on that, and it will launch another web page which gives you some more detailed information. So very nice tool to find information about drugs. CME allows you to access a web page for your physicians to get continuing medical education credits. Last but not least is the help menu. If you click contents, absolutely nothing will happen. If you click diagnostic, there's two, or actually three options on here. Show XML, this will be an area where you will not go into. This will just launch all of the XML. We use this for diagnostic purposes, so you won't ever need to be doing that. The same way with show HTML, it allows you to see the HTML, which is all code. So you'll not be doing that. The other option is recover auto save file. You may occasionally need to use this. In the event that your computer crashes while your record is open, a temporary file is saved to your local temp folder, and it does this about, I'm thinking every 30 seconds It just does it automatically. If you had created a record and entered some data, and then your system crashed and you had to shut down Management Plus, but you had not saved the record yet, you can come into the Auto Save File, and it will go right to your temp folder. It'll automatically highlight it, and click Open, and it will bring all of that data forward except for the last 30 seconds. Very nice feature so that you don't lose any data. If you had saved the record and then we're in this again and it crashed, when you go back to demographics and you just double click on that record entry, there will be a message that will come forward on the screen. It's an informational message that asks you or tells you that there is an auto recovery file available. Do you want to use it? And naturally you'll click yes. So it's very nice so you don't lose all of your data. You might lose the last 30 seconds. Works out nice. And then the About button allows you to see what version you're on. So it'll always be DB version. It will not be app version. If you click the version information at the bottom, and look for sections like at the bottom here where there's a lot of the dates that are the same. There's a few older dates, but usually these are all the same. This will actually tell you when it was released, the release of the build that you're on. And occasionally we might ask you for that, but more than likely we'll just ask you what this DB version is. Okay, moving on to the right hand side of the screen are some icons. This first one is to send a task. This allows you to send a task to other staff members that have a Management Plus account. You can send a common or an individual. You can send it to more than one person if you want, assign different colors, priorities, and so forth. This will be something that support will give you training on how to do. The part I want to show you is down here. You can see that this record is not linked. The link here, it just shows a number. I'm going to give it a description. Okay, and I think I got an extra I in there. Okay, and here's one of those occasions where I'm just going to do File and Save because I want to save the record. Now when I click to send a task, you can see that it has been linked. So we have the patient's name, date of service, and the description right there. And this number here is essentially the patient's ID. It puts all of this information in there for you automatically. You can add to this. You can add a subject. This is a great tool for, adding a task to somebody, Please take care of this, or please call this physician, or so forth. I would not use this to, tell someone that this patient needs a visual field because whoever gets this task may not be looking at their task list, which is on the main screen of Management Plus. It's something that, it has a little bit of time, an hour or two or even a day before it really needs to be addressed. It's a great tool. I would definitely practice with your co-workers in the office. The next one here is for orders. Again, a very advanced feature. We're going to skip over that. The third one is ePrescribe. This is probably the most widely used access point for your ePrescribe. There is at least 6 to 7 different ways to access your Dr. First ePrescribe, and this is the best way. Just click that and it will launch the web page for you. The fourth icon, the hint on that says View Images. It looks like an X-ray. What this does is it allows you to see the images that are within Management Plus, the thumbnails. And in another webinar, I noticed that whenever you're recording, it does not like to show that. It happened on another one of my webinars on training for viewing thumbnails. It just will not bring that forward. As soon as the recording is stopped, no problem. It launches just fine. So what we're going to have to do is shut down Management Plus. Be able to get back in there. Okay. There we go. So, just I'd love to show you that, but I can't do it on the recording. All right, so here we are, Blue Banner training. Double click to reopen that. It is locked. And why is it locked? Because I had to shut it down inappropriately via the task manager. So I'm going to actually unlock that record. I'll go into more of that in detail in another special training session just for the lock manager. But now we're back into this. I'm not going to click on that because it'll just hang up again because we're recording it. But otherwise, you would be able to see all of the image files saved for this patient. The next one is another PDR access point for PDR integration. So it allows you to find information about drugs. You can access information about that. So it's a really, really nice tool for you. So it's right here. You can do a PDR search and you can find information on drugs in just a second. The next one is Medline info button. I'm going to click this to show you what happens if you don't select something from the problem list, meds list, or lab. You'll get this information tell you and say it's not available. So I did want to show you how that works. So let's just choose on here something in this like corneal gutata, and then when I click this, you can see that it will launch Medline Plus, but there is nothing about that. Okay, let's choose the cataract, and we'll try it again here. Okay, nothing about that. And let's try the next one for glaucoma. And so here we have something. There's some information about that. It will, it's another reference site so that you can print out information or just find information about a specific problem, med, and so forth. Okay. The next one is the LDM. So this window always comes out quite large. Probably shrink it down unless you have a large screen. And this allows you to find patient education material. So you can see here at the top, I've actually got some old ICD-9 codes in here. So if you click this and do show if there's information available, let's see if there's anything on this acetazolamide, and there is none. If there was some, it would display here, and you can click print if you want to. So all of their meds, all of their problems and diagnoses will be listed here, and then you can access that educational material on there. Very nice tool. The 4 black circles here are indicators. These are essentially blinking lights that have different colors that we can write code. That if for some reason you needed to have an indicator lit under a specific scenario, just talk to me or your EHR specialist about it, and we would set up that scripting, and then it would blink under certain scenarios. This is red, yellow, blue, and green. If it is blinking, you can hold your mouse pointer over this, and there will be a hint, and it will tell you what's going on. So you can be on any form at any time, and if you see that blinking, you can hold your mouse pointer up, and you'll see exactly why it is. The avatar here to the far right is what we call the quick change icon. I'm signed in as system administrator. I created this record. So this system administrator does not have a picture in the user account. So it's assigned essentially a faceless avatar with a green shirt. If I were to click this, 2 things are going to happen. One is it's going to save the record, take you out to a white security screen. If you click OK or cancel, nothing's going to happen. This is what you want to have on your screen if you walk out of the exam room and the patient's in there by themselves. It would be a HIPAA violation to have their patient data on the screen so that anybody walking by could go in and read that data. So this is what you want to have on there. If I sign in as myself, it will come back up to the record. You can see I have a picture on my user account, and now my name is on here. So this is for changing users quickly. It is not efficient to save the record and exit and then shut down Management Plus and have somebody log in, find the patient, reopen the record, just so that they can document data on the record or on the patient. That's what this is for. It's just for the quick change of users. We do recommend having pictures on there. It's very easy to do documentation when someone else is signed in, since all that you would be able to see is this. If I click this again and I sign in as somebody else, okay, and this person has an image, but it's not themselves, you can see that it is now displayed, and it's right here. Let's see if I have a third user on here. And yes, we do. So this has a faceless avatar, but it has a red shirt. That means that this is not the original creator. So green shirt is the original creator. Anyone with a red shirt are subsequent users. Naturally, if you have your own picture in there, it's just going to show your picture or another type of picture. Okay, up here is a red X, and below it, it says published. If you want to publish this record to the portal, all you have to do is click that and turn it to a green check mark, and then it will publish it. That's it. That's as hard as it gets. I don't think if you click it again that it becomes unpublished. I think once it's published, it's there as long as you save the record afterwards. If you add data to the record after the patient has seen the physician and gone home, as soon as you save it, all of that new data is then updated on the portal. I've seen this happen. I was very impressed with the speed and the accuracy of it, so that it's immediately reflected. If you did this 1 day later or even a week later, as long as you save the new data, it's immediately reflected on the portal. Patient name, date of birth, and how old. If George was alive, he'd be 130. And of course the gender. The date of service is right here. You can always pick from the calendar. By default, it will come up with the date of service as today. It will be in blue when you first create a record. If you're prepping a record and you want to do it 2 days from now, you can do plus 2D, press tab, and now it's 2 days from today. Plus 1W is 1 week from today, 1 year, 1M is 1 month. So it's the first letter, day, week, month, year. You can also do minus as well. You can do negative, 1D if you wanted to make it day in the past. Probably not a very wise thing to do. Going ahead in time and it's fine, but going backwards is probably not so good. Pressing tab will allow you to come to the physician selection on your system. Once you first get started, it'll be blank since the patient has no previous records. So you'll key in the first letter of the physician. So if I did S, you can see that this doctor will show up on here. If I did T, it shows up. It's more efficient than taking your mouse and coming down here and picking from the pick list. If you had a dozen doctors, you'd have to scroll down through there and find that. If you had 2 doctors with the letter T, you just start to arrow down, and then when you got to where you wanted, you just press enter. Pressing tab takes you to the visit description. So this would be, where you key in your short synopsis of the visit. So say something like 1 year, complete exam. And that's it. That's as detailed as you need to get. I would recommend uppercase for everything. Make a standardized list of all your visit descriptions and have everyone kind of choose from that. The next one in the tab sequence and over to the right is the status. Think of this as a sticky note. A completed record that absolutely needs nothing really needs to have a blank status. You do not need to fill this in for every patient on every record. If you're done and nothing else needs to be completed, leave it blank. That's what you want. You only need a status if something needs to be done. So we have different options in here. Such as this. You can create and add as many as you need. So if you need some test results imported, you can just press the letter N, and there's actually more than one option with the letter N, and I can arrow down, and there it is. Okay. If I did the letter P, you could have pending surgery. If you need to add to this list and you have permissions, press the flashlight, and you can see that this user does not have permissions. So I'm going to change user. and see if I've got permissions. Okay, and I do. Okay, so that is a very viable scenario that could happen in your office. So here's the ones that we have. If you want to add a new one, you can click add, key it in there, and it will be on that. If you ever edited this and modified the name, not a problem. Bear in mind that every record that is out there in the past that might have this status already, if you change it in here, it's going to change it on every other record in the past if it exists on there. So just be aware of that before modifying existing ones. Otherwise, create 15, maybe 20 at the very most, and then use this when appropriate. Down here are the 4 master diagnoses. You actually will have up to 7 that you can document, but there are 4 master diagnoses because you can have 4 CPT codes, or I'm sorry, 4 diagnosis codes for every CPT code that you have, up to 12 per claim. So we have 4 diagnosis codes. This is an old one here. They're all ICD-9s, but you'll be using ICD-10. And so that you can have 4 diagnosis codes, up to 4 per CPT code on a claim. That covers everything on the blue banner. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Have a great day.